say, what's that? It's Pat.
All right, hello everybody. This is Patrick Argiro, aka Cousin Pat, and I am here with MMA fighter Justin the Fort Sumter. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good, man. Good. Thanks for doing this. Full discretion, I apologize for having to switch it around on you a little bit.
No worries, no worries.
But you were real cool about it. So I'm always curious. Just to really start off, I like to tell people this, that I always keep saying this isn't an MMA show, but I've spoken to 25 MMA people and like two regular people. I spoke to a weatherman and a real estate mogul. So I think I'm just gonna call it an MMA show. But how do you get the name? I want to look intelligent now. So how did you get the name the Fort?
As an amateur, my name was The Machine. That was kind of a name that I kind of put on myself. I was like, hey, I'm a machine when I go in there. And since my last name is Sumter, I grew up in Georgia and South Carolina. And a couple of my friends were like, hey, man, why don't you just call yourself the Fort, like Fort Sumter. And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, man, if you go pro, you should definitely switch it to Fort Sumter. And so, I was like, hey, I could give it a try, and it seemed to hook, and everybody liked it. So I kind of stuck with it. But it's originally from Fort Sumter in South Carolina, which was a crucial part in the Civil War. So that's where the first shots were rang. So it's big in Southern history, and a lot of people can kind of get behind it, and like they see it in their history books. So that's kind of why I stuck with it. Is
that where you're from, South Carolina?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you still fight are you still with the Fighting Arts Academy?
Yes.
Okay. And how long you been with them?
I think I started in 2014 with them. It was just right after I had my first professional fight. I was with Henzo Gracie team in West Haven, Connecticut, and then Nick Newell, he opened up a gym in West Haven, and I wanted to kind of switch up a couple things, and so I got on with him, and it's been a really good click. We're real good friends, and he has a real good coaching strategy and style that I kind of vibe with.
Let me ask you a question, because I'm getting much more familiar. When I say I used to, I love MMA, and I got very addicted to it, so much so that I started betting on it. And I went from $0 to $1,600, and I thought, man, I'm the man. So I bet I put it all on T Wood versus Usman, and then I said, you know what, I'm done. So I don't gamble anymore, because it wasn't my money. I mean, I went from 0 to 16, and then, so I'm learning, but I'm learning more about other organizations. And I interviewed Jorgen de Castro, and now it looks like he's fighting for an organization you used to fight for, the CES.
Yep.
Because it looks like I'm seeing more and more of it. How's the competition there? Is it not quite at the UFC level, or is it getting better, or?
Well, like with these other organizations, so you have like the top organizations where you have like Bellator, UFC, PFL, and then you have like the organizations underneath them that kind of basically they have up and coming talent. They have a large talent pool, and what happens is you get to a certain level where you're having to fight guys that aren't really locally. So what they do is they'll get a guy, hey, we got a 5-0 guy fighting out of California, but he needs a really good test. We have this guy fighting in CES. He's undefeated, or he just came back from the USC. So one, there's a challenge to let the guy that's well known, hey, you got to beat this tough guy, and then you can maybe go up to the top platform or maybe fight for a title. So it's more of a feeder where this organization, it gives top talent the outlet to one, showcase their skills and then get on a wider stage.
Yeah, I mean, from what I could tell from talking to fighters and people who are really deep into it, I consider, you know, what I've been told is I had Eric Anders tell me, you know, obviously the major leagues, or if you want to quote it to the big show, obviously the UFC, Bellator, one championship. You could throw PFL in there. Some people would consider Invicta, and I'm seeing a lot of other things coming. And so, for example, I'm very curious how this thing works in the sense of like, there's a gentleman I'm interviewing, Bam Bam, and he was fighting in the Ohio Fighting League, and he had a fight scheduled, and then he got called up, and now he's in Bellator. And he's fighting on the main card in the next Bellator. I think it's 263 or 262. I'm getting, because I know they're very close. UFC is like 263 and Bellator is like 262.
Yeah.
So I guess these smaller organizations, you're signed. Is it a fight by fight contract, or is it depends on the situation?
Well, some of them are fight by fight contract. You get like a lot of the local guys in saying they're like, if you get a guy from New England, he's probably going to fight for CES. They're either lock him down for a multiple fight contract, or in their contract they have a UFC or Bellator clause. So basically, what it says is, hey, hey, you fight for us, you got 3 scheduled fights, but if you get called up to the UFC or a higher organization, your contract is null. Because essentially, if you got a guy that you're under contract and he's doing pretty well, and then the UFC calls him up, then that's kind of a feather in their cap, because they have that talent pool and they have those guys. And hey, the UFC is picking people directly from our organization, so why not fight for us? So it's a kind of I would say kind of a bragging right they can have to get other good fighters to come and step onto their stage and say, hey, we can get you to the big show. All you got to do is perform here.
Well, it's almost like kind of like if a big star played high school ball at this school, and then you're like, LeBron James played ball here. You're like, really? Yeah. Really? Yeah. Like, because I saw some video of LeBron James when he was in high school. Still a beast, skinnier, but still obviously a beast, right? Because they were watching him back in high school. Which organizations do you obviously, I'm assuming you watch UFC fights and Bellator fights. Do you find yourself watching PFL or Invicta or anything like that?
Yeah, I typically try to catch as many fights as possible, just because of me being an athlete. And what I mean, I like seeing how different athletes use their attributes, use their skills, and how they display and how they match up with, seeing a good matchup is what I really like. Like even if it's like a promotion that no one's ever heard of, but if they have a good matchup and they're putting on a good fight, I like to see that, just because my brain, the way I work, is I like to see stuff, compute it, and then kind of break it down. I'm like, okay, whoa, that was a nice spinning technique. How did he set it up? Okay, what do I need to do to probably do that, or can I do that? So I like to challenge myself mentally by looking at other people. One of the big things I like doing, especially watching the smaller guys, because they kind of have those gas tanks that, they can throw 100% every single time and do that for 15 minutes straight. And, me being a bigger guy, hey, I probably got 100% for 5 minutes, but I got to kind of break it down to like 70%, then I can go 50% to last the whole fight. So I kind of like to emulate some of those things in my fighting style to improve my game. So
me as an average Joe, I guess they call us, right? As an average Joe, we see a move and we go, whoa. But to you might see a move, go, That looks interesting. I'm gonna try. I want to practice that. Like I'm gonna. And I would think because of who you are and the training you have, it's an easier goal to obtain.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and a lot of the stuff is more of a, like not specifically this is what they did, but how they got to that. So you know what I mean, like especially with the fight game, it's more of you setting up your move than you doing the move. If you can get all those pieces together, and somehow he gets in the right spot and you land that move. It wasn't just that you landed that move; it's you set up the move to land. And so that's kind of like, because looking at it from a pure spectative, like where you're looking at it from the enjoyment factor, I'm kind of looking at it as enjoyment as well. I like to see good fights, but also as the combative and the analyst perspective.
What's interesting? I've talked to I keep saying the same thing. Like I've been talking to other fighters. I've talked to 20. There's hundreds of you guys, thousands, if not. I talked to 20. I think I'm a big shot. But what I'm hearing is some fighters are like you, where they get into it. And then I've talked to a fighter or some fighters that are like, who told me I fight. And then when I go home, I'm done. Like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't like people will come up to them and because, hey, if you got friends and now you fought in Bellator, you fought on the Contender Series, you're listed right now on the UFC as active. And what's so funny? When you go to their page, they said you made your UFC debut today. It's the funniest thing. You go into athletes and you type you in, it says UFC debut, July 6, 2021. I was like, is he fighting today? I was like, yeah. So they might have to, whatever. But so are you kind of like all in or sort of in the middle, or are you kind of like obviously I don't think you're like one of those, I don't want to be bothered. But are you kind of in the middle? Do you have balance, or is it just all?
Yeah, it's more of a balance, like because I have a full-time job. I have a wonderful wife and a wonderful daughter, and so what I mean. Like it's not go. I would say like a good majority of the time, like if I'm daydreaming or thinking of something, hey, I'm probably thinking of a move or thinking about, hey, what do I need to do to excel at my next workout? But it's not more or less like, hey, like sometimes it gets annoying when it gets closer to the fight, because once it gets closer to the fight, people around hey, a fight's coming up, and you get those stupid questions like, how you feeling? Are you going to make weight? You think you're going to win? And that gets to me more than people talking about, hey, did you see a fight last weekend, or who is your favorite fighter? What fighting style? That doesn't really bother me too much, because I've been fighting since 2011. So, but it's just more of the repetitive nature of people asking you how you're doing when you're preparing for a fight. Like, hey, I'm doing good because I'm preparing for the fight. I'm gonna step in there and I'm ready. But that's more of the pet peeve I have.
It's interesting because this is so I put this show together for a particular reason. A couple reasons is I lost my dad, right? And I became a therapist, and I want this to be about people who deal with diversity, inspiration, motivation, your journey, because I know a lot of MMA fighters, you guys weren't born with I was looking for a spoon. You weren't born with a silver spoon. You worked to get here. And one of the questions that you don't want to ask somebody, especially someone who's in grief, let's say if they lost somebody, which is obviously a lot more serious than someone saying to you, how you doing? But sometimes you might say, how are you doing? And they might be thinking, how do you think I'm doing? But the question is really like, how are you today? Meaning, because it's day by day. So I think, the same thing in your world, it could be more, like, how are you feeling today, or how did training go? But the people around you, they know you, and so they know the people around you. I'm saying they know what to ask, what not to ask, how not to bother you. So that's interesting. So you're 6'2". That pisses me off. I'm not 6'2". And I'm looking at you, and guys like you really bother me. I got to tell you why. I don't really appreciate when there are tall, good-looking, muscular guys who know how to fight. It's like, who the hell do you think you are? So, I mean, that really irritates me quite a bit, and I just wanted to let you know. And if I ever meet you, I will tell you to your. No, I won't. No, I won't. So what do you walk around at? I'm guessing you walk around about 2.
Yeah, usually walk around like 215, 220, around that range.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. You're big. So you're 6'2", 220. So did you play any, did you play high school ball, like anything, or college ball?
No, I just wrestled. I played football a little bit, like at the beginning of high school. And then I just kind of fell in love with wrestling, and that took all my time.
Whenever I was at a restaurant one time, and one of the servers, he had the collie ears, and I just remember thinking, like, I just stood up a little bit. I was just like, don't look him directly in the eyes, even though he's probably just a nice kid. It's just, wrestlers especially, once you guys get people down to the ground. I've heard heavyweight champion fighters. I forget the gentleman's name. He fought Kimbo Slice. I forgot his name, but Kimbo got him to the ground, and he said he was scared to death. That's the guy who knocked out Tim Silva. When Tim Silva was kind of at the end of his career. But I don't recall his name, but it's not really. I just know that wrestling, you guys once, I was fooling around with a friend of mine who was on the wrestling team. All I know is 2 seconds later, I'm on my ass is up here and my legs are back here. I don't even know what he did, but it was interesting. So let's talk about you a little bit more. I always like to get into things situational, and we talked about some stuff, but you're a legit badass. You fought in Bellator. Your record, these records sometimes are wrong, because I'm seeing records, but you correct me. It says you're 7-4.
Yeah.
Okay. So you fought in Bellator. So right there, you're right there, that shows you made it to the pros. You're a pro. You fought in Dana White's Contender Series. So when you fight, I guess it does show up. I'm always confused about these shows, such as Dana White's Contender Series, or Looking for a Fight, or even The Ultimate Fighter, in the sense of some of these fights count towards your record, and then some of them don't.
Yeah, so like with the Ultimate Fighter, because of the style it is, I mean, they have they have to stay a weight, and then they have to compete with people they're living with. So technically it's an exhibition, so they don't count on their record. But like for Contender Series or Looking for a Fight, those are actually sanctioned fights, and so those would show up on your record.
So now when you're in something like that, does that mean, like, for example, I talked to Tyler King. He fought for Bellator, former football player. He fought on the Ultimate Fighter 19. He got knocked out. So so when you look, it doesn't show that he actually fought for the UFC, because he was just in the Ultimate Fighter. But when you fight on one of those fights, those other shows you mentioned, I suppose, is it you fought in the UFC? Is that what it is? I mean, because I get so confused.
It's technically, so what would happen is they would be sanctioned. So the only difference with the Ultimate Fighter is they don't fight. They're not required to fight 3 rounds. So they only fight 2 rounds. And so technically that's not a full fight, because a full fight is 3 5-minute rounds.
Oh, the Ultimate Fighter only fights 2 rounds.
Yeah, but then they go to a draw. If it's a draw, they go to sudden death, and so that's when the 3rd round is going to play. So, but for like looking for a fight, those are sanctioned. Basically, those are sanctioned fights that just happen. Dana White or whoever's coming is actually looking at the fight, and then they put it on the TV show, or Dana White's Contender Series. That's just a fight that's sanctioned in Las Vegas with the Nevada Athletic Commission, and is a 3 5-minute round. You
know what though? Honestly, to me, it's still an accomplishment. It's still a bullet point. Like, to me, you fought in front of the boss, right? You fought on a UFC show. So, that's still quite an accomplishment. It didn't, it looks like that particular event didn't go your way, but there's learning lessons and everything. What did you learn from that particular fight back in 2019?
The one 2019, that was
that wasn't? It says 2019.
Yeah, no, that like I just learned to just be more confident in myself, because coming up to it, like I was a little bit apprehensive. I was like, hey, should I belong here? And like, I've been training. I was training with Global Tech Sarah a little bit for that fight, and I just kind of second guess. It wasn't that I didn't have the capabilities or didn't have the abilities to do whatever, but just have full belief in myself in that particular fight. And it's no really sweat off my back, because that guy, the guy that I lost to was he's like ranked in the top 10 of the world right now. So it's not like a big slap in the back of the head, but I wish I would have won it. But it is like I take it as things happen in your life that are supposed to happen, and you can either try to fight against it and regret it and say I wish I would have did this, wish I would have did that, or you can just go with the flow and figure out where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do.
It's interesting you say that and that's a great attitude that you fought against these guys, and listen, he's in the top 10. So I mean, I've talked to like Jorgen De Castro, and I watched his fight against I think it's Craig Hardy, and he lost 30-27 on all 3 cards. And I was like, I don't think he lost that fight. A lot of people don't think that he lost that fight. So, and then you see like, oh, you fought Tafa and you lost to Tafa. Tafa's a good fighter too. So it's like, you can't really, it's like, you're going to get upset about losing to a top fighter and, the top 20 fighters in the world. You know what I mean? It's like, you have to have perspective, and you guys are all trained killers. And, sometimes I've heard, if you run a fight back 10 times, this guy could win 5, that guy could win 5. It's like, you're all at the same level. The only guy who seems to be at a different level, according to most fighters, is Khabib. And, you got your John Jones, St. Pierre. There's another guy who doesn't get enough credit. I can't recall his name, but who are some of your favorite fighters?
Favorite would have to be Anderson Silva. Because right when I started, that's when he had his breakout fight with Chris Lieben, and after that I was like hooked. And George St. Pierre, Demetrius Johnson. Those are kind of like the main guys that when I first started that I looked up to, that I kind of was like, man, these guys are awesome. These guys, they kind of seem like more of superhumans to me at that time. And then, you know, that kind of gave me that edge. It's like, hey, you know, if you want to do this, you gotta kind of strive to be the best. And those are the guys that I kind of looked up to.
That makes sense. What did you think about his fight against Chavez Jr.?
I thought he looked good. You know, I thought he really looked good. Like he's the type of guy that he has the fighter bug. You know what I mean? Like you get a certain age where, you know, you're like, hey, you know, I still want to compete. I still want to do something. And you know, it's just a good outlet, you know, especially with these Logan Pauls and you know, kind of celebrity exhibition matches. So yeah, it kind of gives an outlet for people to, you know, that still have a career and that still want to compete, and give them a way to you know, make more money and still put on a competition.
Yeah, I think it's great. I like all this this like sort of, I don't know what you call it, celebrity boxing, if you will, or YouTube boxing. They have some lower, when I say lower, there's some other promotions that are trying to promote, like Aaron Carter. He's the brother of one of the guys from NSYNC, and they're doing stuff. But I think it's all really good. And you know what's interesting about Anderson Silva is, yeah, he got, you know, whatever. They think I gotta do something. Okay, I'm sorry. So yeah, they caught him. I think he had some PEDs back in the past, and I don't know too much about that, so I'm not going to comment. But he fought a Stylebender, obviously clean, right? Because he fought a Stylebender when USADA was in place. And out of all the fights that Stylebender had in that division, besides when he went to 205 and he didn't do so well because the guy, you know, knew his weaknesses, I think he did very well against a really good assassin, like a modern day ninja. And he was 20 years older than him or something like that. So that guy's legit, legit badass. So yeah, I would agree with you. Who would you say are your top five?
I'd say Anderson Silva, Demetrius Johnson, George St. Pierre. Then it gets a little tough.
Wow, I'm shocked there's not somebody in there, but this doesn't have to mean you like them as people, just as fighters.
Yeah, I would say
that's a tough one, right?
Yeah, Bobby Knuckles. Like I like him. And who else? I would say Adesanya, just because of style.
Well, I'm very surprised you didn't say, Khabib or.
Well, yeah, I mean, I like Khabib. I like his style, but to me, you know, like he's a great fighter. You know, just like if you look at the guys that I said I like, their styles kind of like emulate. Like I like the wrestling, I like his takedowns, but my style kind of emulates the kind of the people that I kind of like. With George St. Pierre, he had that kind of karate style, but he still had the wrestling, and that kind of ties in, as well as Bobby Knuckles. What's his name? I keep saying calling him.
Yeah, I'm like, who the hell is Bobby Knuckles?
That's the Australian.
Let me look him up.
What's his name?
Is that his nickname, Bobby Knuckles?
Yeah.
That's a great nickname, by the way.
How am I forgetting his name?
No, I got it. Don't worry. Bobby Knuckles, MMA. Usually, they let's see. Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whittaker.
Yeah, Robert Whittaker. Yeah.
What an amazing fighter, and Stylebender just made him look average.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so anxious about that fight, you know, because him, he's Whittaker is like a phenomenal, and he's really good with his game plans. I think he just kind of got over anxious in the first fight, and you know, he made some mistakes that he didn't adapt in the second round, and you know, that kind of cost him the fight. But yeah, I'm really excited to see the next matchup between them.
Yeah, me too. You know what's interesting, when I talk to a lot of fighters, and I've talked to other fighters also through Twitter and Instagram, you know, just chatting, would you like to do the show? And, you know, but they're all very polite, very cool guys. The rise of fame for Stylebender is not, obviously, this is like a duh comment, but it's not the norm. What it seems to be is, I've talked to UFC fighters who have roommates, you know, they're on a contract, and then they're going to get the next level contract. And I think this guy, when he beat Brunson, kind of like sort of legitimized himself, Stylebender. And it just sort of, and if he had beat, when I can't say someone's name, I get so embarrassed, but when he lost to the 205 champ, I think if he had won that, he would have been like, you know, like legendary.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to the 205 champ. I don't remember your name. I'm very, very sorry. It's not that I don't remember as much as I can't pronounce it.
You just call him Jan.
Jan. Yeah. Okay. Jan. Yeah. Well, I'm on a first name basis with him. We're having lunch later. So you fought Bellator, a few fights. You fought let's see, Dana White's Tuesday night, and then the Contender Series, and those are two separate shows, right?
Well, no, actually, they're the same show. He just took the Tuesday night out of there, because they started doing them like on different days. So like if you have it, you know, I have Tuesday night on Wednesday, it kind of messes it up. But
I mean, as long as you just aired it on Tuesday, I guess it doesn't matter. But you know, but that's cool. So that's awesome. I have a couple interesting questions for you. First, let me ask you, in your life, have you ever had, and you could be as honest or as open as you feel you want to be, but have you had a fight through diversity, or any challenges, or, you know, things even as a child, or because I have, like, I'm a former homeless guy. I've battled with depression, anxiety. I've been in 2 mental hospitals. And now my what I call, I'm in remission, because I'm a therapist, and I study mental health about 2-3 hours a day just on myself. So I feel very good, and now I'm a therapist. I got my PhD, and so I overcame is what I feel, because when you're out of control, it just feels like you don't even know where you are. Have you ever had any challenges or issues with depression? And if so, how do you deal with that?
You know, like I just really learned about this thing. I was online, and I tried to be positive in literally everything I do. It's kind of, but I realized that there's a thing called toxic positivity. Yeah, that's toxic positivity. And so where, you know, like you address the situation, you don't address the other side. It's kind of like, hey, I feel good because I'm telling myself I feel good, but I'm actually feeling bad. And I would say one of my biggest things that I had to deal with was more or less when I was a kid, and you know, like I have a different mindset than I was when I was a kid, but you know, I always used to get in trouble or used to get picked on, and I dealt with a time frame. You know, it was only minute, but it could have been longer. Like I'm not a psychologist, or I didn't really address it until probably like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, me personally. But I just decided I wanted to commit suicide when I was real young.
Me too.
And I was, it was just, you know, like a combination. I wasn't really a good kid in school. I had ADHD, and I, you know, couldn't sit still in class. Always used to get in trouble. Always used to get picked on. Then I'll come home, and because I got in trouble at school, I would get spankings and stuff like that. So it's really, I was kind of down on myself, and I was like, man, why am I here? If this is, I literally every single day I would get in trouble just because one, I wasn't in the right classroom, or someone would say something to me and then I would act out, and I wanted to commit suicide, and I put the belt on the door and put it around my neck and shut the door and jumped off, and the belt broke. And then I was like, what should I do? You know what I mean? Because I was like, that was, and then I was like, hey, well, live your life. And at that point, you know what I mean? I kind of put that in the back, and I swept it under the rug, and I didn't talk about it. Didn't tell anybody about it. And then, I was talking to my wife about it, and that was kind of the lowest point in my life, I would think. I think it's good to talk about it to people.
Yeah.
Just one specifically, because if someone looked at me from the outer perspective and they see, hey, I have a nice house, I have a good car, I got a decent fighting career, a good family, and they're like, hey man, this guy has it all, and he's probably never suffered, he's probably never wanted anything, but just telling that I'm human and I have struggles is a valuable tool to, one, connect with people and show that people that you can make the decision to live your life for you, and not like hold yourself in a hole that you could regret the rest of your life, or could end your life. So
Yeah, no, and thank you for sharing that, by the way. I really appreciate that. I remember seeing the Avengers, and I don't feel this way now, or nor even at the time when that movie came out. But the scene, are you an Avengers guy? Watch the movies?
yes.
I never could. I obviously would never commit. Well, I say obviously, but what I did a couple times was, I'm in Florida, right? So it's a right to carry. I have my permit, I could carry. So I gave my gun away to someone. I said, hold it for me. And then I remember the scene where Thanos goes like this, and they disappear, And at times I felt like, well, that's what I want to happen. Like, I just kind of disappear. But life is too beautiful, and if you're having a hard time, you need to tell someone, and if they don't listen, tell someone else. And I just want to really quickly just give out this number, because you said that, and I didn't expect that, but it's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and it's 1-800-273-8255, 1-800-273-8255, and you could look that up if you're feeling down. But so thank you for sharing that, by the way. That was very open of you. I've had other fighters on the show say similar things. Leah Letson was on this show, and if she told me on camera, so I don't see why I can't repeat it, that she felt suicidal. She was in the Air Force. She came home from combat, and she felt that way. And the worst thing you could tell someone who feels suicidal is that they're trying to get attention, because I've had someone tell me that, and I thought, that's not what I need to hear. It's one of the worst things. But so what's next for you? Like, what's next in your fighting career? As far as, are you signed with Bellator? It shows active on UFC, but are you hey man, let them leave it up there. It's just more
more publicity.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was talking to my manager the other day, and he was like, it was like, maybe, when was the card? I think it was late last year or early this year. Well, two of the guys that I fought on the Contender Series, they were fighting that night, and so like all the cut scenes and all the promos, like I was in there. I was getting beat, but it's like, hey, publicity is publicity. People are seeing you. So, but I'm looking to try to get back in early to late fall. nothing signed, no contract signed. I'm not currently signed with Bellator. What they usually do is like they'll give you a when they're back in town, they'll give you a shot and send you a contract just for that fight. And sometimes you get multi-fight contracts off of that, or sometimes hey, they just want you when you come back. Yeah, either or. I know CES is coming back to Connecticut in early fall, late summer. So I'll be looking to get on that if I can, or nothing like right now. It's just more like I had some issues with my knee. So the beginning of this year, I had to get a procedure done on my knee, and now it's feeling better. And so I'm getting back to training full time, 100%. So yeah.
And you are you're 31 or 32 years old?
31.
31. So realistically, you probably could fight. I mean, I hear you guys don't hit your prime until like 32 to 35 or something. But how many more years do you want to fight professionionally?
Probably like 3 more years. I had to talk with my wife, and like, hey, give it 3 more years, and if it pans out, it pans out. Or, if I'm making enough money because I have a full-time job. I make a decent amount of money not fighting. I'm a project manager for an elevator company, so I can literally stop fighting right now and be fine. But I really enjoy fighting, and it's a really passion of mine. So I put a lot of energy into it, and the goal is to fight so I don't have to work. But like I have a bachelor's in science and civil engineering technology, so I have a background, and I pretty much can do anything that I want in the professional world. As well as I can also fight. So I have both of those things I can kind of go back on, and that's what I wanted to do. Going to college, I was like, hey, you got to be smart and have that degree. So if you fight, you can't fight forever. So and that's was kind of my thinking when I got my degree and got my job, and continue to fight through there.
And so you're a project manager, and so I was a project manager for many years, and I just couldn't do it anymore for certain reasons. I suffered from a TBI, and now I take lion's mane, which is a all natural supplement. It's a mushroom, and now I feel fine. But I just don't have the passion for it. But let me ask you, do you have your PMP?
No, no.
Okay. Well, I just find it interesting. Here's why: because that job is one of those jobs where you need your brain, right? You need to be thinking and because you have a degree in chemical engineering, you said?
Civil engineering.
Civil engineering, I apologize. And so it's very interesting to me because you need this for that, and you fight, and it's like it's not really affecting you to that point yet. But I have a funny question because so I'm assuming I've been a PM in New York City, and New York City professionalism when I was there is a lot different than anywhere else. Like you will hear two professionals call each other like F you cocksucker. And it's like you would never hear that in Florida. You'd be escorted out the door. So do some people, like when they talk to you, knowing who you are, and plus you're a big dude, because I've been in meetings that have been very heated, but we're talking about like two guys who are overweight and out of shape and they're fighting. And then you have to say, all right, guys, and you have to like actually stop the meeting sometimes because they get so passionate. And so I'm wondering, like, when guys start to get this, somebody ever talk to you and then you see it and they're like, oh, wait a second, maybe I should just chill. This guy is, has that ever happened where you could just tell somebody's like?
I would say it hasn't. I would say like probably one meeting that got really heated. It was just between the state and a subcontractor, but like most of the time it's more cordial. There's no foul language or anything like that. And yeah, yeah, I would say I kind of wish it would happen, just to see it happen, but it hasn't really happened. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now let's have a little. Sorry about that. Let's have I've been sick for like a month and I can't get rid of this cough. It's killing me. Let's have a little fun here. And a little bit of jokey joke stuff. So real quick, your opinion on, or your prediction on the T Wood versus Logan fight.
I think Tyrone has it, just because of you have to look at it as a competitor. So like he fought Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson's a basketball player. Hey, he's still an athlete, and the athletes are athletes, but fighting another combative athlete that one knows how to throw a punch, knows body positioning, knows all this stuff, and now the only thing he has to worry about is punching. It kind of puts him a little bit higher. You know what I mean? Like, hey, not to say it's going to be an easy fight, but I just see Tyrone pulling it out. It's one, being a competitor. You have to win on points. You have to win the deciding decision. So he kind of just has the upper hand in all those. Like, he checks all those boxes for me. Not to say, hey, one of the Paul can maybe win. Not to say he can't win, but everyone has a puncher's chance, and he seems to have a decent punch. But I think Tyrone.
I'm gonna go T Wood too. But Paul said to him, not Paul, Jake, which people kept making a big deal about, is he challenged him something along the lines of, if I win, I'll give you something along the lines of, if I win, I give your money to charity. And T Wood would not go for that, which I wouldn't go for that either. He's going to make a couple $1 million. I'm not going to, that's, but hey, this guy's a great shit talker, the Paul kid. So now I always save this one for last, but I have another one. So, how we keep seeing the aliens now? We're seeing these UFOs. So here's my prediction. The aliens are coming, right? The aliens are coming. So the aliens are going to come. They're going to come down, and they are more advanced than us. So they're just going to do this thing with their big eyes. They're going to go zoom, and all the technology of the world is going to stop. But radar, fighter jets, whatever, everything, even guns aren't going to work, right? So now, who's going to fight the aliens? Who's going to fight the aliens?
Who?
MMA fighters. MMA fighters. And what's going to happen is, they're going to say Dana White, it's the military's going to lead it, because you got the Green Berets, the Rangers, the Navy SEALs, and they're all great. But they're going to bring in the MMA, and so it's going to be UFC, and they're going to say, hey, UFC guys, you got to, take this, and then they're going to be like, hey, fuck it, we only got 500 people on the roster, so we're going to bring the Bellator guys. And then they're going to go over, well, shit, we still have a lot. So now let's bring over fucking PFL. And then they're going to say to the PFL guys, look, these are aliens. We could throw elbows, okay? Because with PFL, you don't throw elbows.
Yeah.
So they're going to say, listen, throw fucking elbows at the aliens. So now the aliens are like, shit, these guys really know how to take us. They're leg locking us, and they're breaking our little necks and stuff. So now they give us a master alien, and they say, bring your best fighter. Whoever wins, we'll go home, we'll get out of this galaxy, and we'll even protect you against the other aliens. Who's the one MMA fighter, or fighter, it doesn't have to be MMA, who's the one person, and I have my opinion, who's the one guy you want to fight? It's almost like a Space Jam version, only MMA.
Yeah.
Who's the one guy you want to fight the master alien for universal galactic control? Or you?
I would say Khabib.
Okay, I like that answer. I go Khabib. I go Khabib. You and I are very I agree with you. The only problem I have with Khabib was I go Khabib or John Jones. The reason I like Khabib is because he could take him down. But then I thought, well, what if the aliens have spikes? And then as soon as he tackles him, he goes, shh, and now Khabib's dead. And then a lot of people might think Francis, but I think a punch isn't going to be enough. So, but I agree with you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would say like either Francis or Khabib, Francis or Khabib. Yeah, or if you can do both.
I like John Jones. I think Francis will be like the obvious choice, but I think a punch to an alien is like they're gonna go. I just like all these moves you guys have, and one thing about Francis, which I think he could do, I really do. I love talking about this stuff with guys who actually know what they're talking about. So Anthony Joshua was supposed to fight Tyson Fury. And then of course Deontay Wilder is like, I want my rematch because he's got pride and he's upset that he lost, so he wants that. So now Anthony Joshua has nobody. So he could he could fight Andy Ruiz again. But how I would pay, honestly, I would pay $200 pay-per-view if Francis Ngannou, after he beats this next guy, whoever it's going to be, he gets the mic and gets like Conor McGregor cocky and says, I want Anthony Joshua. Now, I know 2 different sports, and he'd probably get killed. But why the hell not? Anthony Joshua doesn't have anybody right now. Francis knows how to box. They look the same as in a sense of they both look like Adonises. And I mean, if the UFC has Zuffa boxing, I think they could probably work something out. And I would pay $200 to see that. I would pay an Anthony Joshua because what if the guy actually won? And now you got this, because one punch, they said his punch is like hitting someone with a sledgehammer. They like actually, they actually like recorded it. And I mean, what do you think about that? What are your thoughts? You think that's too silly? Is that like a Batman versus Superman thing? But I just,
yeah, kind of. Well, like, so yeah, like, not to say Ngannou would have the upper hand, but like me being personally, like, hey, I think I have decent hands. I think I can, like any random guy on the street, I could probably, beat him up without kicking, without taking him down, just with my hands. Like, but when you go with a boxer, it's like a whole different ball game. Like it's the footwork, it's the movement, it's the feint. Like I can remember, like it was like maybe 2 years ago. I got my nose broken by this, like it was like 175 pounder. I just, just slipped my hand down a little bit, ducked my head down a little bit, and he caught me with an uppercut, broke my nose.
In a fight or sparring?
Sparring.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a different ball game. Not to say you can't do it, but I wouldn't fight. If I was in Ngannou, and I still had his power and all his attributes, I still wanted to fight Anthony Joshua.
I just think it's a great way for him to make a quick 50 mil.
Well, yeah, a good way to make some money. But it's
I think he loses. I think he loses, and I think he loses terribly. I think in a street fight he destroys Joshua, but I think in a boxing match, I would think Joshua for sure. But who the hell wouldn't want to pay to see that? It's like, that would just be, because this isn't like a joke fight. Like, I'm not saying take a WWE guy who, by the way, those guys are professional athletes. It's choreographed. I want to be very respectful, but those guys are athletes. The way they move, the way they it's just choreographed. But so, all right, just wanted your opinion on that. So now my final question is to you, and I'm going to kill this cough. So if I always ask this question. I even asked this question today to a gentleman who's I can't say the word, but he's a weatherman. He's a meteorologist. I guess that's what they call him. Most martial artists I talk to have some sort of level of respect for Bruce Lee. They obviously everybody knows who Bruce Lee is. Even all these years later, everybody still knows who Bruce Lee is. And I was funny because I was talking to this guy, and he's like, well, you know, if Bruce Lee was alive, he probably would have created his own form of martial arts. And I was like, well, he did. It's called Jeet Kune Do. And he was like, oh, see, I don't know that much. But so my question to you is this, and I'll give you an example afterwards. If Bruce Lee were alive today, he would blank. And my example, I'll give you an example, okay? If Bruce Lee were alive today, he would be on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Okay. If Bruce Lee was alive, he would definitely be a millionaire. Can I do a multiple one?
Yeah, go crazy, man.
Would definitely be a millionaire. Well, we probably would have more money than that, but and if Bruce Lee was alive, he would have instructional videos.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I mean, this isn't my second go, but I would also, like some people have said, they think he'd be like Jackie Chan, still doing movies. Because he worked with Jackie Chan back in the day.
Yeah.
Jackie Chan's been around a long time. My second one, and you could do a second one if you want, is if Bruce Lee were alive, he'd be verified on Instagram.
Well, yeah, I guess, you know, like
that one.
He might, like, I don't know if he would.
Of course he would.
That, you know,
he's Bruce Lee. Oh, you don't think
well, I mean, like into, you know, like that
social media,
and because, you know, like I'm sure he would be, you know, but he would have, you know, kids and grandkids and, you know, all that stuff. So yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I mean, his daughter, his daughter is still alive. He's got she's probably around my age, in the 40s, beautiful woman. So yeah, I just went down this rabbit hole the other day of watching Bruce Lee. And when he got hurt and he was bedridden for 6 months, he hurt his back, and they showed this book. He wrote this. He was a real thinker, critical thinker.
Yeah, philosopher.
Philosopher. And so he wrote this major book, and he would also jot down all his exercises. Like, I threw 500 punches on the left side, 500 punches on the right side, because she did an interview with Bas Rutten, because he's a huge Bruce Lee fan. And I think the guy would just he was very impressed with other forms of fighting. He worked with this guy named Gene LaBelle. And Gene LaBelle is like this judo champ. And everyone says, you know, if he would have fought Gene LaBelle would have just took him to the ground, destroyed him. He was like this gorilla of a guy who knew. And if you look at Gene LaBelle looks like a fighter. That's a guy I could go, okay, you know what? I like you. You look like the part, and that's fine. You could kill me, but at least you look like, you know, you're a fighter. Because he, you know, everything was like shifted, you know?
Yeah.
So, but do you have a second one, or are you good?
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Do you have anything you want to promote, or anything you want to
if you know you guys are interested, follow me on my social medias at Fort Sumter MMA, or Justin the Fort Sumter on Facebook. Instagram and Twitter have the same handle. So
much easier when there's the same handle. I have 2 different handles, so much easier. And I'll put that in the description. So thank you so much. I really appreciate the time. Thank you for understanding about me shifting it. And it was great meeting you. And when you start fighting again, before your next fight, hit me up on Twitter, because that's how we talk. And okay. I'd love to have you come back on.
Okay, definitely, man. Definitely.
All right, man. Well, you enjoy your day. It was really a pleasure meeting you.
And pleasure meeting you too.
All right. Take care of yourself, man. Bye-bye. Bye. All right. So that was Justin. Excuse me. That was Justin the Fort Sumter, not no P. And that guy was awesome. I really enjoy speaking to these guys. And that was a great interview. I think I don't really like to call them interviews, I like to call them conversations. Because wow, I mean, he opened up a lot about he put a belt around his neck as a kid. And so that's pretty amazing. Well, that's not amazing, that's sad, but I mean that he, people get to that point where they're actually doing that. And I'm so happy that, he didn't, obviously, because now look at his life. He's besides being a killer, an assassin, he's a civil engineer. So he does quite well, and probably in South Carolina does very well. And then I didn't ask him if he has any children, but he has I'm sure he has a beautiful wife. I'm sure she's beautiful. It doesn't physically, I'm not talking about it. He's happy. He's got a wife he's happy with. And so that's great. So I want to thank him again. And I hope you guys are enjoying these things. I'm supposed to say stuff like and subscribe and stuff like that. And you could follow me at Real Cousin Pat on Instagram, and then Cousin Pat Therapy on Twitter, and the Cousin Pat Therapy, it's 1 T for Pat and Therapy. And then my YouTube page channel, I guess it's called, is Cousin Pat Therapy. So thank you guys. Really appreciate you watching. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.